Okay, part 5, the final one of Gone with the Wind. So, it picks right off with Rhett and Scarlett enjoying their honeymoon in Baton Rouge. I just wanted to add a little French flair to it, I don't know. For the most part, this honeymoon is going quite well. Is meeting a whole bunch of people just like her and Rhett. A whole bunch of people that the old guard would consider unreceivable. So as such, there is a lot of people to be able to talk about, and along the way Scarlett is sampling the greatest food, the greatest dresses, everything. For once in her life, it feels like things are starting to finally go her way. All along the way, Rhett has an open checkbook at her beck and call. The only agreement that he has is that none of his money is to go to support Ashley in any way. However, he's perfectly fine with keeping Tara going, as well as her little entrepreneurship with Frank's old store. They have a house built in Atlanta where Scarlett is in charge of what the house should look like. And very much to the last sentiment at the end of part 4, it is very much a house of you can all go to hell. She has wealth and she wants everybody to know about it, and she wants to shove her little ring in everybody's face. The house is built. However, even with all the comforts that she has, she is still plagued with nightmares of her time back at Tara. But the major difference is Rhett is in the same bed as her. And when she awakens from her nightmare, he's there to just kind of slowly pat her on the head and tell her that everything is all right now. And Scarlett is just wondering what she can do to get rid of these nightmares. To which Rhett says, after a while, you'll get used to not having to worry. And then all those nightmares will finally go away. Some time passes when Scarlett is pregnant again. This is something that Rhett is very much excited for. But Scarlett does not want to have another child. She finally lost the weight from the last one that she had, and on top of that, she realizes that children are just a distraction from making money. She even plans on trying to abort this baby, actually, to which Rhett is like, no. Do you know what happens to women when they do that? And yeah, apparently he knows about such things, but he cares too much about Scarlett to let her go through with potentially killing herself over this. So on the day that the baby is born, Scarlett's 2 other kids are out playing at Aunt Melanie's place. However, the oldest wants to know what's going on. Why he's been outcasted from his home as well as from his new father, Rhett. He manages to sneak away back to the house, to which everybody is going crazy trying to get Scarlett comfortable as well as getting the baby out. But Rhett is able to spot the child right away, and he notices his distress. One of the big questions he asks is, can a kid have multiple fathers? To which Rhett's just like, well, yeah, of course. You're my kid. I'm gonna look after you. And the other big question is, he feels a little annoyed that he's not getting the attention that his sister is getting. And even earlier in the book, Rhett says that he prefers having female children. But yet when little Wade brings up this question, Rhett has the perfect answer to it. Basically having, I don't want a son, because I've already have you. Which, that is just something that warmed my heart. So, the baby is born under the name Eugenia Victoria. However, she ends up getting a nickname that is immortalized just as much as Aunt Pittypat's nickname. Melanie goes over to see the newborn baby, to which they're all wondering what color the baby's eyes are going to be. To which Melanie says, nah, they're going to be blue. Bonnie Blue. And the name just stuck. Bonnie Blue Butler. And as far as I can tell, that's a clever use of alliteration as well. She quickly becomes the favorite of both parents. However, Rhett is spoiling the child to no end, and as such, she gravitates more towards Rhett. as Rhett is giving a handout rather than ugh, don't bother me, honey. I'm busy with the store, I'm busy with the sawmill, I'm just busy. I can't deal with your antics. There is a little bit of conflict that comes up as all of the kids are stuck at home, to which Rhett is just kind of like, why are you here and not at like every other person's birthday party? To which the townsfolk do not take very kindly to Rhett or Scarlet, and as such they are ostracizing their children. Rhett has a major problem with this, as he does not want his sweet little Bonnie to be ostracized from the community. And so he goes on a crusade of sorts to be able to save his face that has been destroyed, not only because of all the speculation, but also with his association with the party that's putting them down. Now that is a bit of a complicated issue. In the last part I had to skate around the idea of race relations, and in this one I have to skate around politics. And if you've been on this channel long enough, you know how I feel about talking about politics. But I'll do my best. Rhett goes on this crusade and quickly becomes the favorite, while Scarlet's image is just being more and more degraded. Scarlet honestly doesn't care because business is booming. She has a husband that is married more for love. They have a massive understanding of each other. They don't have to wonder what they're thinking because they both have the same mind. However, she still wants to maintain her business front. And so she is, once again, not really into having another kid. And she is bolstered by this when it's a slow day at the mill and Scarlet wanted to go check up on Ashley. To which Ashley believes that it is Rhett that has corrupted Scarlet to the very state that she is in. Obviously, she likes being more swooned over by Ashley, so she's ready to go along with this. And it is there that she decides that she does not want to sleep in the same bed as Rhett Butler, more because of the wishes of Ashley than much else. Rhett is able to grant this request easily enough, to which Scarlet is just like, that's it? No conflict or anything? But then she realizes how much she is giving up by having to sleep in a separate room. She no longer has Rhett there to protect her from her horrible nightmares, and she very much liked that stability. For the most part, she had to be a tower unto herself, and for once she can just kind of lay all those responsibilities away and just lay her head on top of another tower for stability. Not gonna lie, it's something I'm rather jealous of when it comes to Scarlet. So now that things are starting to get a little more stable in Georgia, Melanie wants to throw a surprise party for Ashley. To which Scarlet is tasked with the idea of to hold Ashley at the mill long enough for them to get all the decorations up. To which Scarlet is just like, I could do that. They are alone together when it's just like they were back at Terra. They're talking about the old times and how they don't necessarily exist in this new world. Scarlet is able to adapt, but Ashley is just a relic of that time. And unfortunately, Ashley ends up taking Scarlet back to that time, an easier time where she just had a lot less cares to worry about. For a moment, there is a mutual understanding, and the love that Scarlet has for Ashley is more of really good friends rather than of a hopeless romantic. It's just then they start to embrace each other in new understanding, when the party of Archie as well as India Wilkes comes in to see this very scene. Obviously, the whole town is on fire with this scandal, basically saying, ooh, Scarlet is such a wretch. She is the one that's tempted Ashley away from the pureness of matrimony. Which, wow, I always hate it whenever this happens. There was a very famous verse in the Bible about this one woman that was in a very similar predicament, so they wanted to throw stones at her. But none of the while do they realize that it takes two to commit adultery. How come the man is never held in such high esteem? Scarlet is very much ashamed by this display. Rhett comes home and he's just like, look, you don't have to explain any of this to me. I know exactly what's going on, but you're going to that party. Scarlet has a very hard time with it. She does not want to go until Rhett basically pulls her by her hair and drags her to the party. But at the party, though, things turn out fantastically as Melanie welcomes Scarlet with open arms and even invites her to bring in all the party guests. Honestly, I think Rhett is a genius for doing this because if Scarlet did not show up at that party, that would have definitely been an admission of guilt. But the idea of Scarlet showing up to the party, being even a little more casual about it, says that it's probably just an awful rumor that India made up because she never got along well with Scarlet in the first place. Some time passes, and Bonnie is the age of 4, and that is when Rhett wants to get her a pony. She is a quick study, and she's able to learn quite a lot about riding on that little pony. And Rhett decides to try to help out with making jumps for her to be able to go over. Scarlet is a little hesitant at first about this, but Rhett's just like, oh, come on, let the child have a little fun. To which she begrudgingly goes along with it, until all of a sudden she flashes back, realizing how much Bonnie looks just like old Gerald did on that horse. And then, just at the last moment, she says, stop, Bonnie, don't do it. However, it's too late. Just like Gerald, she falls off the horse, breaks her neck instantly, and is instantly dead. So, with the death of Bonnie, there is a lot of ice between Scarlet and Rhett. Scarlet blaming the death of Bonnie on Rhett for not giving the child a little more discipline, to be able to say no to her every once in a while. Rhett is obviously beside himself as he very much loved that child. He went with her everywhere, to church, just walking around, to the political meetings, to everything. And now the one thing that he loved most is completely gone, and Scarlet is just rubbing a whole bunch of salt into that wound. It is Mammy that is the one that attempts to break this ice by inviting Melanie in to negotiate. When she gets to the house, it is a very awful scene. Rhett does not want to bury Bonnie as she is very much afraid of the dark, and the idea of putting her in the ground is enveloping her in an internal darkness that she could not possibly bear without her papa. And even when she was alive, Bonnie is in Rhett Butler's room, where there's just candles everywhere to illuminate the thing like it's the sun. Melanie is able to go in there, and it's never really said what exactly she told the Rhett Butler, but the funeral goes on. Now, this wasn't the only bit of ice that Scarlet and Rhett had. So, as usual, Rhett is trying to do everything in his power to get Ashley out of Scarlet's imagination. And one of the ways he does this is after a very heavy night of drinking, where he makes sweet, passionate love to her. More than Scarlet has ever felt from any other man in her life. It was a very special evening for her, but Rhett treats it as, well, just another night he's had all the time. In fact, he often disappears to what Scarlet suspects is the local whorehouse. And to Rhett, it just feels like another trick. This was very much a stab to the heart to Scarlet. After that night of sweet, passionate love, Rhett goes on a trip for another month. When he returns, he finds out that Scarlet is pregnant. At least here it makes a little more sense. It wasn't anything magical. It was just, oh, he had sex with her. Of course they would be having a child after that. When he comes home, Rhett's just kind of like, ugh, you look very pale. Did they run out of makeup or something? To which she just can't stand it anymore. She's just kind of like, you did this to me. I am pregnant. How dare you make fun of my looks? And she tries to take a swing at Rhett, to which Rhett dodges out of the way. But unfortunately, Scarlet loses her footing and takes a tumble down the stairs. So suffice to say, not only does Scarlet have a miscarriage, but she is just laying there wrecked with pain, far worse than she had ever had going through the other children she had. After the death of Bonnie, Scarlet takes a trip and she receives a very distressing telegram from Rhett Butler saying, "Melanie is ill, come back quickly." To which she does, to find out that Melanie is at death's door. She couldn't stand just being content with the one child, and so she tries again, and this miscarriage is what ends up killing Melanie. Now, there's a very interesting quote in Rhett saying that Scarlet is the one with the strength, and Melanie is the one that only had the heart. But I have a very hard time believing that. It takes a lot of strength to just, after you have a child, to be able to make a perilous run through a burning town to make it back to Terra, help with the crops, and even attempt to execute one of the Union soldiers that attempt to rob the place. And on top of that, she was the one that helped put out the fire when Scarlet fainted from it. But I guess Rhett is true that her strength does come from that of love. She did all this for the love of Scarlet, not for the love of herself like Scarlet would have done. Everybody is there to say goodbye to Melanie, to which the doctor just kind of put Scarlet aside and said, "Look, she's going to have a peaceful passing. We all know that you had an affair with Ashley, so do not bring that up. Do not apologize. She is going to pass away peacefully, not in rage. You got that?" She goes in, and from her time at the hospital, she knows that Melanie does not have much time left. They talk for a bit, to which Scarlet makes a promise to Melanie that she would look after Ashley as well as his child. After this, Scarlet steps out to talk to Ashley a little bit. And it's there she realizes that Ashley is just another child that she has to watch after. He doesn't know anything. He can't stand up on his own 2 feet. He needs somebody else to just constantly hide behind the skirt of. Surprisingly, she even has it out with him, basically saying, "Look, you never loved me. Why put on the facade? You know you loved Melanie this whole time. You're just an awful person." To which Scarlet is like, "Oh yeah, I made that promise to Melanie yet." And so she starts to try to soothe the situation. However, they have a bit of an understanding again when Ashley goes in to say goodbye to Melanie. Melanie is dead, and everybody is just beside themselves. While everybody is not too big a fan of Scarlet, they still look at her as a pillar of strength, to which they ask, "So, what do we do now? What is the funeral going to be like?" To which Scarlet is just like, "Look, I can't deal with this right now, okay? We'll do this tomorrow or something." It is there that fear starts to grip her. She starts having that nightmare all over again. She decides to run home. She realizes that she is in love with Rhett. She wants the pillar. She doesn't want another child to take care of. She runs home with winged feet, as it's described in the book. She makes it back home to Rhett. To which Rhett is just kind of like, "Ugh. So, what's the verdict? Melanie's dead?" "Yep. And let me guess, she wants you to look after Ashley and his child." "Yep. Well, what do you know? You finally got exactly what you wanted. You happy?" "What? No, I love you. I don't love Ashley." "Look, stop lying to me, Scarlet. You've had the hots for Ashley ever since. And don't go saying that this was just some sort of childhood crush. You loved him, and despite my best efforts, you never loved me. You know what? I've just had enough of you. I'm leaving. I'll come back like once every 3 months so the neighbors don't talk. Does that sound good to you?" No, come back. What am I supposed to do with myself?" To which Rhett utters the famous line, "Well, quite frankly, my dear, I don't give a dang what you do." And then leaves without a word. With nothing else left in her life, she decides to go back to Terra. And that is where the movie and the book end. Or at least, I hope it does. I mean, usually whenever I read a book, it says the end, but You can see it says nothing there, and seeing that it's a little rough in this section, I do hope there weren't more pages after this. But yeah, if that's how it ends, just like the movie, I will say I'm a little disappointed. But at the same time, I was kind of expecting this. I remember when I saw the movie last, I'm just kind of like, but that's it? She struggled so much to be able to do all this. She finally had everything. And then lost it all due to petty selfishness. But I guess maybe that's the main moral of the book. But then again, when I was watching the movie as well as reading the book, I'm just kind of like, honey, just give up on Ashley. Just go with Rhett. He understands you. He loves you. You can have a happy life together, while Ashley is just somebody you're gonna be pulling around. More like a cross that you have to bear than anything else. But the idea really just ends at that. And the idea that Scarlet says, you know what? I've built up an empire from nothing and I will do it again. And she even says that maybe she'll win Rhett back. Which I don't think that's happening. I mean, Rhett has spent how many years of his life trying to get Scarlet to fall in love with him. And it didn't work. Rhett has had it. And at the age of 45, which at that time the life expectancy was like 50, he realizes that there's more things to do with his life. On a personal level, I just find it crazy to think that Scarlet is 28 at the end of the book. That's how old I am. And to think that she somehow went through an entire war, had 3 husbands, and 3 children. It's just amazing how much happened in so little time. But then again, she did also marry her first husband at the age of 16, so I guess that really puts it into perspective. So, final thoughts. The biggest thing I can think of is, if people thought The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn was controversial because of its use of the N-word, that is nothing compared to this book. There is every single racial slur you can think of used to describe anybody that is African American in this book. And oftentimes it very much blurs the lines. I can't tell how much of it is Margaret Mitchell trying to capture the racism of that time period, and how much of it is how racist the author is herself. And on top of that, I realized that there's going to be a lot of people taking issue that the 2 major slave owners we hear about, the Wilkses and the O'Haras, were not overly cruel to their slaves. But even more so than that, the thing that makes this book really difficult to recommend is its sheer length. True, it was a lot better than Moby Dick at least, where at least the story kept going, even if there were some areas where it just painfully went into detail, but at least there was a story. There were slow spots in it. There were a few detailed spots in it. But I guess at the same time, after just reading The Godfather, which story was just as epic of a scope with Gone with the Wind, but yet somehow it was able to do it in half the pages. So, if you're a fan of the movie and you want to see how different the book is, I'd give it a read. It's quite crazy how much has been taken out of that movie, which for a movie that's about 4 hours long is very impressive. And also, if you're a Civil War buff, or if you just want to know a bit about Reconstruction, this book offers a very interesting perspective on that. That is Gone with the Wind. Finally finished it. Still kind of crazy to think that Atlas Shrugged is actually a little longer than this. But the main difference is I found that one to be a page turner, while this one just had so many dry spells. Well, join me next time for my most requested book, Jurassic Park. In fact, the requests were so much that I actually got this book for free. After reading Gone with the Wind, this is going to go by very quickly. Until that time, keep having fun.